Hey, this is really close. I know it's after Halloween, but if you click on the link in the description below, you can go to Retro Game Player's Halloween episode of Retro Gaming Sunset. The series features Marcus from Retro Game Players collaborating with different YouTubers to do reviews on all things retro, including Judy Garbage, who does a 5-minute movie review in the Halloween episode. So maybe you want to go check that out. While you're at it, if you enjoy retro video games or other retro things, maybe you want to subscribe to Retro Game Players or some of the other YouTubers from that episode, or subscribe to this channel if you haven't done that yet. I know Judy Garbage would appreciate it if you did that. I know this because I'm very close to her. That's it. So, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm probably gonna regret it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So this is Hell House. You will watch me do this and you will like it. No, that is not the name of my sex tape. Yet. A hell house, if you're not aware, is a Christian haunted house, sort of. It's more like churches and Christian organizations doing that thing they sometimes do when they take something trendy and kind of piggyback on it. And by piggyback, yes, I do mean they sometimes illegally copy and parody for their own financial gain, but that's beside the point. These churches and Christian organizations will put together a house, if you will, and get actors, usually church members, to act out scenes in which they depict sin, how the consequence of that sin is hell. So become a Christian now, lest it should happen to you. Fire insurance, just in case. God can't tell the difference. So back when this was still a fairly new phenomenon, director George Ratliff decided to make a documentary about the original Hell House at Trinity Church in Cedar Hills, Texas, and their production process. The documentary was first released at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2001, and has been shocking the non-religious and not at all surprising the religious or formerly religious since. We open on a man on a white background basically apologizing for the things he is going to show us. No, you either ask first or you apologize later. You're getting the two mixed up. He says the things they are going to show us, though, are real, and it is their responsibility as Christians to warn people of their sins, or the blood will not only be on ours, the sinners' hands, but on their hands as well. This is why in many ways it's hard to get mad at preachy Christians, because many of them feel like they are honestly doing the right thing by warning us of hell and what's going to happen to our souls if we do not profess faith in God and Jesus. Now, many conflate this as egotistical, and there are many egotistical people in religion, that's true, but some people are just honest do-gooders. They're trying to do right by their fellow man, like the passerby trying to drag the pedestrian out of the way of the semi they are absolutely positive is coming. The problem is, there's no evidence for this semi, and sometimes the pedestrian just gets annoyed by the passerby trying to help. Then there are the Ken Hams of the world who are probably in it for the money and the notoriety, but let's not get into them right now. Next, we come to a Hell House leaders meeting, which of course opens with a worship session. Can you imagine if all meetings at Apple stores had to open with the employees singing love songs to Steve Jobs? It's unfortunate that the camera holds on this poor girl who clearly does not know the words to the song they're singing.
Hear our cry for... God, that we do this for a purpose. It's not just to do a fundraiser or just to put on another program at Trinity, Lord.
Why do you feel you have to reassure God of these things? Or are you reassuring God? Are you reassuring yourselves? I wonder what SMOD is. I'd ask, but he'd probably tell me. The theme for this year's Hell House is The Walking Dead. Since this is 2001, I assure you that this time the church did not rip off something from pop culture, so don't get mad at them for that this time. Mustachio here says the theme comes from believing that a soul without Jesus Christ is dead, so therefore all non-Christians are basically walking dead. With the word of God being a shotgun, and the verses being bullets. Pew pew! This is when Mustachio says something rather interesting.
Is our youth ministry driven, and even our church, is it driven by fear? No, is fear a part of it? Absolutely. A part of salvation is being afraid of going to hell.
Right there. You have a choice, worship God or not. There's an eternal torture chamber for those who don't, but it's entirely your choice because free will! They are discussing the themes for the different rooms in Hell House, most of which are the same as the ones they've used in previous years. Wait, if all the rooms have the same themes, then why is there a different theme for the house as a general whole? That's kind of like renaming the pie you bring to the company picnic every year. This is my organizing chaos pie. No, it's not. It's that same damn apple pie you brought every year before. It's the same, but it's different. Trust me. So the scenes in Hell House deal with traditionally Christian sins, such as abortion, drugs, family violence, alcohol, etc. They apparently do school shootings modeled after the most current real-life school shootings. The previous year, they depicted the Columbine shooting. Before that, they did a school shooting modeled after the one in Paducah. This kind of feels like they're taking national tragedies and exploiting them for personal gains here. I mean, I know, like I said, a lot of Christians have good intentions, but that's also what the road to hell is paved with. Apparently, the Columbine scene they did last year caused a controversy. Oh, I'm sorry. Mustachio claimed it caused...
I wasn't in trouble, but it was just a lot of interest.
How very diplomatic. I feel like that's a bit sanitized compared to what probably actually happened. One guy pitches a school shooting scene that's basically the plot to Pearl Jam's Jeremy. They discuss having a gay bar scene with lesbians. Mustachio says no. One girl suggests that it's a very relevant topic that they should cover. Thoughts on whether homosexuality is even a moral issue aside right now? Mustachio claims he doesn't want to do a lesbian scene for the same reason he doesn't want to do a heterosexual dating scene.
You're just together so much over that period of time. I just don't want to go there.
So he thinks that women pretending to be lesbians will eventually become actual lesbians. Like it's contagious or a learned behavior or something. Or maybe he just assumes women will automatically fuck when given the right circumstances. Stop watching porn, it's messing with your perception of reality. This kid thinks people who go to hell will just have constant flashbacks for eternity of when they could have become a Christian and didn't. So hell is just God saying, you could have been a Christian, but no, you wanted proof. You wanted evidences.
Let's look at 6 of the best evidences for the flood.
Shut up, Answers in Genesis.
Someone tell me a reason why we do Hell House.
Money.
We reached the lost.
Remember, we're doing this for God, so don't enjoy yourself. Or else God won't believe you're doing it for him. Next, we get into the auditions, or excuse me, tryouts. Yes, because you audition for baseball in your baseball costume and then you try out for Shakespeare in your Juliet uniform. I feel like these people have never seen a real audition before. Usually you audition reading with other people when you're reading from the script. That saves a lot of time because then you can audition more than one person at once. No? Just want to make people feel stupid yelling at themselves on stage? Okay. This guy is sick of being a drug dealer. In Hell House. I'm assuming he means in the Hell House.
Wherever you guys feel, let the Spirit lead you. I'm praying that the Spirit will lead you away from the drug deal.
Nice play on the lingo, buddy. Honestly, though, look at him. He would be that douchebag selling you drugs. Why does this girl look like she's going to tackle us? And perhaps we should have told this one to XYZ before filming. This one tells a story of how she used to play the girl who gets raped by her father and commits suicide. And one night, she saw in the audience the man who had actually raped her a couple of years earlier. This made her realize she had never actually dealt with the issue within herself before, and she forgave him that night. First of all, reminder, these are sensitive real-life issues you're dealing with here. Make sure you don't get yourself cast in a scene which is a little bit too close to home. Secondly, after you forgave the guy, which is great, please tell me your next step was to report him so he doesn't rape anyone else. Next, we go to the Kesar house at 6 a.m., where John Kesar is getting his 4 kids ready for school. Their ages range from high school to a small boy with cerebral palsy. And this particular morning, this small boy has yet another seizure.
We have a seizure.
So Dad lays him on the bed and calls 911. As he is on the phone, he prays over his son, and his son comes out of the seizure.
I spoke the word of God, and you came out of your seizure, son.
Okay, that's not proof of God, but that's not proof of God either. People do come out of seizures on their own quite often. At the same time, I can see how the timing of this would make you believe in miracles. And if anyone needs a miracle, it's this guy. This seizure came in the middle of trying to make breakfast for 4 kids, trying to see to it that all 4 of them took baths in the morning, and making sure all 4 of them got to their various schools on time, all on his own. Where's Mom, you might ask? She's not in the picture, and you'll find out why later, mostly.
And this was really unexpected for Albert to go in seizure.
Are seizures normally expected?
Do you think I'd do okay in family violence? I really would like to try for that.
It's a rather strange question to ask your family.
Alexandra, I don't have paper and a pencil. Albert had a seizure. I will call the school. Stress.
Yeah. First day of school. If the church isn't enough for you, you can attend their school as well. Because who doesn't want to be at church 6 days a week? So Alex, John Kesar's high school daughter, auditions for the abortion scene in Hell House.
My baby! I heard my baby cry!
Does that mean your baby's in hell?
What? The spiritual aspect. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but acting-wise.
Yeah.
Acting-wise, she's awesome.
Yeah, acting-wise, she's pretty much anywhere. Very good.
The spiritual... She's not spiritual enough to pretend to have an abortion, however medically inaccurate it might be. Mustachio tells us about the founding of the Assemblies of God denomination. Basically, the Church of God had a black bishop, and some people did not want to be under a black man, so they split off and became the Assemblies of God Church. So, racism. Your entire doctrine is founded on racism. That doesn't mean you still are racist, but that's kind of a shaky start, don't you think? I guess the first step to solving a problem is admitting that the problem exists, so yay? Next comes the in-depth research of the riveting script writing segment.
So they're magic cards, but the game is called The Gathering.
I think it says Magic the Gathering on the front.
I'm just putting it role-playing games such as Magic.
Magic the Gathering. He just said it.
Like Magic the Gathering.
Magic and The Gathering. The magic cards.
They're called Magic the Gathering.
What?
Magic the Gathering. Well, just say playing Magic. Okay.
How is the cameraman not just screaming in the middle of this? I don't want to say that the gap on her shirt is referring to the one between her ears, but at the same time, I kind of do. This guy begins talking about getting sucked into occultism and referring to those people as Satanists. Okay, first of all, there are too many types of Satanism to get into right here and now, except to say it's a lot like Christianity, how Christianity has different denominations of itself. Satanism kind of has the same thing, and some of those different subcategories or denominations of Satanism really think of Satan more as a philosophy rather than an actual being to worship. That being said, secondly, occultism and Satanism are two entirely different things. They are not interchangeable words. The word occult comes from the Latin word for hidden. Occultism, according to Merriam-Webster, is belief in or study of the action or influence of supernatural or supernormal powers. So yes, some sects of Satanism do fall under that category, but do you know what technically also falls under the category of occultism? Christianity.
You come up to most people and say, "Hey, you want to be a Satanist?" And they go, "No." But if you come up to a kid that's searching for something that can easily be sucked in, that has problems with self-esteem or with just feels like he doesn't have control of his life, and he feels that as a way to get power.
Which is also why people join other religions like Christianity. This guy here is a cop and an idiot. Oh my god, gun safety much? Oompa! There are beer steins behind him, so yeah, to gun safety! They apparently rebuild the entire thing every year, which seems a little excessive and wasteful. You can't just leave it up all year in the backyard or something if it's that big of a deal to you every year? No?
This is going to be we'll probably make this into a tunnel. I don't know if we're going to go out and in, but...
You're in the middle of building it and you don't know yet? An argument ensues over red versus white paint in the occult scene.
That warlock that came through a few years ago,
Not everything is like
he complained because
red.
we had white stuff in this. We had 2 or 3 white candles, and he was walking through saying there's no white in any occult scene.
Really? I'm pretty sure you just got punked. Besides, I thought all occultists were Satanists, not warlocks. But what am I worried for, though? They clearly do their research. I think there's a fault in your star. This guy started doing Hell House 2 years ago because he saw that there were things they were not portraying from his past.
The underground scene.
He tells the crew he's been to plenty of raves in his past and how people will just randomly take whatever's put in their hands.
There have been times when I've left a rave and literally just, they'd have to drag a couple dozen bodies out. Maybe not that many, I exaggerate a little bit, but maybe 8 to 10 bodies a rave, at more dangerous ones.
You want to make a beeping noise if you're going to back up that fast next time? This rave scene they're building is going to be part of the date rape scene. The rave rape, if you will. The date rape drug this rapist is going to administer in this scene was prevalent mainly in rapes, but now it's prevalent everywhere, and we can trust this guy and his information about this because he knows raves and therefore he's an expert.
What is the drug?
I don't know, I can't remember the name of it.
GHB, ketamine, rohypnol, roofies.
It is going to be an official date rape drug.
It turns out Alex is indeed spiritual enough to pretend to have a possibly medically inaccurate abortion. Good for her. This is when we hear about what happened to Mom. Apparently, Mom had an affair with a man she met over the internet.
It turned out being a lot more than it should have, to the point where legal people got involved and they got the cases confused, and we were taken away from my father for 1 month and put in a foster home.
I don't want to accuse anybody arbitrarily of anything, but that sounds kind of like something you would tell a child when the truth is too embarrassing or too much for them to handle. Just throwing that out there.
Suffering really does bring you closer to Jesus, because when you have nowhere else to go,
you might make imaginary friends.
We're not going to go exactly word for word by it, because if we did, no one would buy it.
Because we'll buy it when you write it, Professor Rave. What was the name of that official date rape drug again?
Yeah, what's the name of the... Does anybody here remember the name of the drug, the actual name that we're going to be using?
Does anybody know the name of that date rape drug? Yeah, Professor Rave forgot. Maybe took too many, I don't know. Now, John is not in the family violence scene, it turns out, but he's at the rehearsal for some reason. And of all things, the family violence starts because Mom met a guy on the internet and started an affair. They're concerned about Alex being spiritual enough to play the abortion girl, but not at all concerned if a cast member has been through one of the sensitive issues they're portraying. That's what Jesus would do. Did someone drop a coffin?
It says ecstasy.
Professor Rave remembered a date rape drug name, and he wrote it down so he wouldn't forget again.
That wall, I only have one thing there. It says Groovelistic Quick Fix Machine, which actually is the name of my website, so.
For the record, Groovelistic Quick Fix Machine no longer exists. Yes, I checked. I know, I'm disappointed too.
It was never really a struggle for me to not have sex before marriage.
What about after marriage? You can totally tell Ryan here was super pleased about it too.
We, saved ourselves for marriage, and it definitely was worth it.
Yeah, it totally was.
The experience of speaking in tongues is a language, a gift.
I felt, a burning on the inside of my stomach, and it just started, coming up through my stomach, and then it started coming out of my mouth, and I was filled with the Spirit.
That's not speaking in tongues. That's called vomit. John tells us his side of the story about his wife, who, by the way, bears a strange resemblance to the woman in the family violence scene.
The person who was having the internet affair is no longer with us.
She's buried in the backyard. Finally, opening night. What sin is the child pirate depicting?
Okay, Jeremy, I'm ready for you to read your report.
Wow, they even named him Jeremy. Somebody is a Pearl Jam fan. Maybe he just didn't like Mondays. So each scene in Hell House depicts someone dying, and most of them are dragged off to hell for their sins. Some do go to heaven, however, such as our abortion girl.
Her name is Jan. She's 17 years old. She took the new abortion pill, RU486, 2 days ago. She's been bleeding ever since this morning, complains of severe abdominal cramps, and her blood pressure is 80/60.
For the record, severe bleeding from RU486 is extremely rare. Also, if she were bleeding that much, she should have been unconscious if not dead already. She's screaming an awful lot to be either of those. No, up yours. Okay, who invited the 10-year-old to a rave? Yes, the infamous rave rape scene. Not only do they not seem to know the name of the drug, they also don't realize that a date rape drug is most likely going to be tasteless. So why is she reacting to the taste, Professor Rave? This girl's expression pretty much sums it all up. There are people who do indeed express their distaste for the scenes in Hell House.
I guess my question is, what did you think Hell House was presenting when you came into it tonight?
Good point. But that question right there tells us that you know you're not doing an outreach so much as just catering to a bias.
Our natural thing is self-preservation. Committing suicide is obviously not self-preservation.
Yeah, it's also saying you also go to hell for killing yourself.
Yes, exactly. And you're saying you go to hell for killing yourself. But at the same time, if you're not in the right mental state, how can that be judged appropriately?
I'd like to know that too.
The bottom line of this whole thing is, it's a relationship with Jesus Christ. Either you have it or you don't.
If this were really ultimately about the relationship factor, you would be showing ordinary people, not these dramatic fear-mongering scenes. The quote-unquote family violence scene, by the way, is mislabeled. It should be called the adultery scene. This is where the wife ends up going to hell because her husband killed her after he found out she had an affair. So we depict a woman going to hell for cheating on her husband. We don't depict the husband going to hell for murdering his wife. Take from that what you will.
This is not a scare tactic. This is not a guilt trip that we're trying to play on you.
Yeah, it is.
I want to ask you to step through the door now. You got 6 seconds.
And it's peer pressure. Through the door is a room full of church members waiting to pray with people to accept Jesus Christ in their hearts and to conveniently give them their personal information for further propaganda opportunities. John tells one of the women praying that he has a hard time forgiving his ex-wife for the shitty life she left him in. Understandable. She tells him that praying for the person is the best thing because you are turning them over to God, or you're forcing yourself to dwell on it longer. Either way, he clearly doesn't want to do that, yet she starts praying over him anyway. The worst part about this, she gets to leave knowing that she did the right thing, and look how she solved his problems in the most godly way possible. Meanwhile, he gets to go home and continue with this life that's been dumped on him, only now he has to make time to pray for the woman who put him in this situation in the first place in hopes that it'll make him feel better.
With abortion, with homosexuality, with school shooting, with all these things. The world is the worst that it has ever been.
Is it? Is it really? We end back on Mustachio telling us how people will just disappear in the twinkling of an eye. The rapture, he's talking about the rapture. While he subliminally tells us with the sign behind him to ask go. So the big question is, why is this film in the dumpster? The filmmakers did a decent job simply depicting the events without any apparent bias, so it's a well-made documentary. In that area, my one issue is maybe the fact that they don't put names to most of the people like a traditional documentary, and that gets a little annoying at times. The fact that it is a documentary at all is probably part of the reason it's in the fringe group to begin with. Let's face it, documentaries are not the most popular genre of films. That and the fact that the subject matter, however interesting you may find it, is rather appalling to many people. Most of the reasons for that should be fairly obvious. The religious agenda behind these hell houses are blatantly repugnant by many people's standards. The actions and lifestyles that many Christians label as sinful are considered by most other people to not even be a moral issue at all, such as abortion or homosexuality. There are even Bible scholars who will argue that these sins are not condemned outright in the Bible anyway, with one passage pretty much having God requiring an abortion as a test for adultery, and the passages used to claim condemnation on homosexuality having potentially different connotations. This and many other moments in the documentary simply depict the lack of understanding on the part of the Hell House organizers. It's a bit disingenuous to outright condemn something as a sin when you clearly haven't researched it or don't fully understand it. I will say that I do highly recommend this documentary to anyone even remotely interested in the topic, whether it be because you are a Christian or you are simply curious about the topic. If you're someone who has been traumatized by religion at some point in your life, or someone who just gets mad when you hear about it, maybe I wouldn't recommend it to you. But the filmmakers behind this effort do deserve the credit for a well-made documentary. As far as the hell houses themselves, as far as I'm concerned, they can just go to hell.
The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves.